Welcome to Timelines Unravelled, where history isn't just told, it's brought to life. Imagine a war so long, entire generations were born, lived, and died without seeing its end. A conflict that shaped the very map of Europe, turned kings into legends, and peasants into heroes. This was not a war of days, or even years. It lasted over a century. Battles raged, crowns changed heads, and the destiny of nations was written in blood and steel. This is the story of the 100 Years' War, a brutal, tangled web of politics, power, betrayal, and revolution. But don't let the name fool you, this war lasted 116 years. And it all began with a throne. It started in 1337. The King of France had died, without a direct male heir. The French nobility rejected his closest male relative, Edward III, King of England. Why? Because he was, well, English. And his claim came through his mother. The French instead crowned Philip VI, a cousin of the dead king. Edward wasn't thrilled. He believed he had the better claim. But this wasn't just about bloodlines. It was about land, pride, and power. England still owned large chunks of France. The French crown wanted that land back. Edward wanted the French throne. And neither side was willing to back down. The early phase of the war was a nightmare for France. English armies, smaller but better trained, used a secret weapon, the longbow. At the Battle of Crécy in 1346, French knights were shredded before they could even reach the English lines. 10 years later, at Poitiers, it happened again, and this time, the French king was captured. The English weren't just winning, they were dominating. But then came the Black Death. The plague swept through Europe, killing millions. Armies were decimated. For a time, the war paused. But it didn't end. By the early 1400s, France was in chaos. Civil war raged between rival French factions. England took advantage, winning massive victories, most famously at Agincourt in 1415. Thousands of French knights were slaughtered in muddy fields by English archers. England seemed unstoppable. In 1420, the Treaty of Troyes declared Henry V, the English king, heir to the French throne. But then, something miraculous happened. A teenage peasant girl claimed that God had sent her to save France. Her name, Joan of Arc, she inspired a broken nation, led French troops to victory, helped crown Charles VII as King of France. But in 1431, she was captured, tried for heresy, and burned at the stake. She was just 19. Joan's death didn't end her influence. In fact, her martyrdom fueled French resistance. The French reorganized, modernized, and began to push back hard. England, meanwhile, faced political instability and internal strife back home. Slowly, city by city, castle by castle, France reclaimed its land. English support in France crumbled. In 1453, after the Battle of Castillon, the war effectively ended. England had lost nearly all its French territories, except Calais. The 100 Years' War was finally over. But the real legacy of the war, it wasn't just in borders and battlefields. It helped forge the idea of national identity, the French as French, the English as English. It shifted warfare itself. Knights gave way to infantry, castles to cannons. And the social order began to crack. Out of the ashes came stronger monarchies, a changing Europe, and the end of the medieval world. Oh, and remember that teenage girl, Joan of Arc. She was declared a saint almost 500 years later. The 100 Years' War wasn't just about kings and crowns. It was about how modern Europe was born. Thanks for watching Timelines Unravelled. If you enjoyed this dive into one of history's longest wars, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a moment as we unravel the past, one story at a time.